Welcome to the Convergent Impact Leadership Podcast, where we explore real leadership stories and strategies to inspire meaningful action and purpose. Whether you're a seasoned leader or just starting out, this podcast is here to help you lead with intent, build trust, and strengthen relationships in your organization. I'm Eric Savickas, bringing over 30 years of leadership experience from my time as a retired U.S. Army officer, university instructor, and now currently as a leadership coach with the fire service. Today, we have the privilege of welcoming Chief Greg Ward of the Loveland Fire Rescue Authority. Greg serves as the Assistant Chief of Risk Reduction and Readiness and has spent over 30 years in the fire service, rising through the ranks and leaving a mark at every level. After over 25 years in operations and training, he took on the new role of leading the Community Safety Division, Training Division, Logistics Section, and most recently adding the Safety, Health, and Wellness program to his scope. He was recently recognized by the LFRA board and Chief Sendelbach for his 3 decades of dedicated service, and he exemplifies the values of commitment, compassion, and courage. Chief Ward also holds the Chief Fire Officer and Chief Training Officer designations through the Center of Public Safety Excellence, a testament to his professional excellence and commitment to continuous improvement. We'll explore his leadership path, lessons learned, and his perspective on where the fire service is headed. Chief Ward, welcome to the podcast.
Hi, Eric. Thanks for having me. Appreciate it.
So let's dig in with your career. As I mentioned there in the bio, you just recently celebrated 30 years with Loveland Fire. What has kept you motivated and engaged throughout that long career?
I think that the interesting piece is it's all I know. I grew up in a fire service family, so I'm the third generation in my family, and my son's a firefighter in Boulder, so he's the fourth generation in my family. To some extent, what keeps me motivated is this is all I know. I mean,
Mm,
I've been immersed in it my whole life. I started as an explorer with the Berthoud Fire Department when I was 15 years old, and after high school, went in the Air Force and was a firefighter for 5 years. And that may conflict a little bit with you there, Eric, being the Army guy, but yeah, I spent some time in the Air Force as a firefighter, and
it's all
then
good.
got hired here in Loveland and been here for 30 years. I think the easy answer is, what keeps you motivated is early on, it was going to fires, right? That's the driving factor. You get into the job and into this career, and that's what you want to do is go to those fires, be at the rescues and those things that are the exciting pieces. So I got to do that. And I've been to a lot of fires and things throughout my career. And it's still important to me. I'm still a firefighter, even though I'm assistant chief, I'm still a firefighter. So doing those things are still really important. But as your time goes on in the fire service and leadership, I think that transitions from going to the fires to building programs within the organization to developing people within the organization to really now at the level in the organization I'm at, it's really helping develop and guide the organization as a whole. So I think that transitions over time, and I've seen that in my career as to what keeps me motivated changes a lot as you move through the ranks and in your leadership role changes in the department.
So you mentioned that your son is in the fire service now as well, but not at Loveland with you. Did you ever have any desire, or did he have any desire to try to join on with Loveland? Similar to LeBron wanting it to play with his son.
I think that's something that's always, would be really awesome. I started in the department that my dad was fire chief at the time in Berthoud. And so I think that's always something that would be a really cool family legacy. In Loveland, our policies wouldn't allow for that. So that means he had to look elsewhere and as much as I would like to have him in the same organization, I think it's also great that he's out there, has to, blaze his own trail and isn't the chief's kid at work.
Hmm.
And I think it's good that he's not able to be here and he's out doing his own thing and making his own name, and that's
Yeah,
okay.
that's very cool. So when I was reading your bio, I mentioned 3 words in there: commitment, compassion, and courage. And those were the same 3 words that your board mentioned when they recently recognized you for your service. What do those words, either all three or any one of them, mean to you as a leader?
Yeah. So commitment, compassion, and courage, those have been with LFRA for many, many years. Chief Miller, who was our chief twice in our history. The first time he was our fire chief, he introduced those three words to LFRA. And when you look around our organization, those three words are everywhere. They're on the sides of our apparatus driving down the street. There's a three C's within the center of our patch logo. So those are really important to the organization and the members of the organization. To me, just short version, I think the commitment piece of it is commitment to the community, commitment to the people that serve here in our organization, our members. And then I take that further personally is a commitment to the fire service. With my background and being multi-generational in the fire service, I think that commitment to the fire service is very important. And then commitment to my family. Those I think are the top four things when you talk about commitment. The community, the members of the organization, the fire service as a whole, and my family. And I can't say that there's any order to those four. I believe that changes all the time based on the situation that's in front of me. So I think that kind of covers the commitment piece of it. Compassion, taking care of the people that work here. If we do a good job of that, then that compassion will spill over to the streets. Our people that work here, whether they're firefighters on the engine or fire inspectors going into a business, that compassion will carry over because we treat them well here in the organization. They'll treat our community well. And I think we pride ourselves in that. We've had a chief here in the past that says big doors swing on small hinges, and those little things like replacing smoke detector batteries are those little things that can open big doors for us by showing compassion at 2 o'clock in the morning, helping somebody that's got a beeping smoke detector, and doing that with compassion and taking care of them. That's going to open doors for our organization. So I think
Mhm.
we really, really believe in that as a department. And then the courage piece, the easy answer is, oh, you go into burning buildings and all that stuff. But that's really not what we're talking about. It's the courage to always try and do the right thing. And sometimes that's not always the easy thing. And for me and LFRA as a whole, one of those things is we pride ourselves in being innovative and sometimes stepping out there, away from the fire service norm to do some things different. And that takes courage sometimes to do that and know that your peers are watching. And if it doesn't go well, you know what they're going to say. And if it does go well, they're still going to have some things to say about you and your organization, and just have the courage that that's okay. But we, as an organization, we feel we need to step out there and try this, look at something different, do something different.
I love the way that you described all of those and the definitions that you chose, or at least the way that you described them, don't seem to, I mean, they make total sense, but they don't seem to be the norm of what might be found on a station wall or a conference room or something like that, right? Just take courage, for instance. Like, I think inherently everybody in the fire service understands the courage of going through the door and into the burning structure, and you could simply leave it at that, and everyone would be, like, not in agreement and get it. But when you say, "No, it's that, but more importantly, it's all these other things," right? As a new firefighter graduating from the academy, you're probably gonna tell people you need the courage to, break free from some of the peer pressure, or people saying, "Hey, don't do the extra work. Be cool, hang back, don't stand out," right? It's all that stuff that people need the courage to step up and say, "No, no, I want to be somebody that does excellent work. I want to be the person that can be relied on and counted on." And then all the other situations you mentioned. And then compassion struck me as well when you said that it's how we treat each other first, and then that translates to the community. It could have very easily been you say, "We treat the community well and we make sure we take care of them," which is obviously part of the mission. But then that could translate to being, "We treat everybody internally like crap," right? Like my wife and I've been watching the TV show The Bear. It's about a restaurant and cooking and stuff. And they were talking about how we treat all of the customers as special guests, and yet they treat each other in the restaurant like crap all the time. They're always yelling at each other, and and that's a broad statement, but you get you get the example. I love that you turned it around and said, no, we got to treat each other that way. And then if we have that mindset, it's going to be that way when we get out in the community. All right. So you're the assistant chief of risk reduction and readiness, and your responsibilities span several key areas. Prior to that, you were the training chief and you worked in operations. How does this new job, this new role require a different skill set? And what are some of those things that stand out to you where you make a difference now?
Yeah, I don't know if it requires a different skill set. I think that it requires a different view of the organization and the services we provide is probably the key piece to that. I think when we had our last chief retire, Chief Miller retired the second time, and Chief Sindelback came in, and we had some other retirements within the executive staff of the department that all hit about the same time, and we had a chance to reorganize. We kind of came up with this concept of risk reduction and readiness and lumping some of these things together and making it in one division, been building it as we go. So I think that the easy one to talk about first is training. I had a background in training, been teaching for quite a while for the state, for Ames College in the past, and done a lot of instructing, rotated through our training division a couple times in my career. And so that one's pretty easy. And we have a fantastic training officer, training chief that's got training running really well.
Mhm.
And there's an obvious tie to operations with training. So I think that one's pretty easy. The other one that we're just working on really getting into and trying to develop this program is logistics. We pulled a captain off a shift and put this captain in charge of logistics, and we're trying to pull everything that's not response related away from the shift crews to manage. So buying uniforms and bunker gear and facilities and apparatus and all of those type things. And it's really going from the ground up. We didn't have this program before. So that's probably where most of my focus is we're trying to build this program. Health and safety, health, wellness and safety is something that I joke last fall I went on vacation, and then I came back and I had health, wellness, and safety on my plate. It happened while I was on vacation. So I joke with the chief and executive staff about that all the time. And I don't know how that worked, but that's what happened. So that's something new for me. We have a decent program. We have some gaps in that we've been working on and building up. And so it's going well. And several different people manage different sections of that. And then I think the one where I'm learning the most, and it's been good for my career, is the community safety division. So fire prevention, fire marshal's office. That's a side of the fire service that I didn't have any background really. I'd taken a coach class once to help get my degree, but that was really about it. And truly understand how the community safety division integrates with operations. I didn't recognize that before. You know, our fire marshal says it all the time. We have an outstanding fire marshal here. She says that her main goal is to make the buildings safe for our firefighters to be in them. And if we can do that, because they're in them when something bad has happened, then they're probably safe for the community to be in them during normal conditions. So she's really helped me tie the operations and the community safety together. And I'm really enjoying learning that side of the fire service that I never had that background in. And it's opened my eyes to something completely new and different. I'm also seeing that position, fire marshal position, as a whole different added aspect of leadership. There's a lot of uh political discussions that the fire marshal is involved in, and projects that are coming and developments, and working with councils and boards on getting the fire code adopted, and a lot of things like that in the background that people don't see, that are really working in the political realm that I had no idea. So that's really good for me to see that, and something that hopefully then I can pass on to our other chiefs in our organization, that, what that tie is, because sometimes it's always been a mystery. We've been pretty good here at LFRA that there hasn't been a gap between fire prevention and operations, which exists in a lot of organizations, like a wall that's between the two. We've always worked well together, but I don't know that we've really understood both sides really well. So I think that's something new, and it's really going to help me longer term in my career, is getting to learn that aspect.
So it strikes me when you describe that wide-ranging portfolio in your current job with the community safety, the risk reduction, the fire marshal stuff, the training, the logistics, all of that strikes me as and I certainly don't mean this in a bad way, but it strikes me as it could easily be just a grind, right? Going through that stuff. Whereas on the operations side, you've got, all the stations, the apparatus, folks on the line doing all that stuff each day. And that's where a lot of departments put their focus, and rightfully so. If you were the type of person that wasn't forward looking and wasn't innovative, you could get easily overcome with just all of the code and the regulations and just doing the things that needed to be done to keep your head above water. But as we talked before we started recording today, you look for opportunities, and you were telling me about how having an innovative mindset is important. How do you bring that to a job that could be very overwhelming with all the details in it? How do you look for innovative things to innovate, and things on the forefront that are coming that you can make a real difference in some areas that typically get overlooked, like logistics?
I think the thing that you have to have is people in key positions that have that mindset. And I'm very fortunate that our training chief, our logistics captain, our fire marshal have that view. And so it's really a collective effort of what's out there next. And by having three really good leaders in those organizations, it allows me to keep from getting totally immersed in one area. And so I can sit back and I can kind of watch all three areas. And there's times, like I said, we're trying to build this logistics program, and I have to be more heavily involved in some of that stuff and large projects and stuff. But I think it just gives me the opportunity to sit back, and then I can see what's going on over here in fire prevention, community safety division, and ask questions. And I think that's a big thing, is just asking questions. And then that gets my mind going of,
Mhm.
is that is that or should we be doing something different? Or to say, what is Greeley doing? What is South Metro doing? What is Colorado Springs doing? And so that opens up those opportunities to look further out there, learn from others that may be doing great things out there. You don't always have to pioneer new things within our
Mhm.
organization. There's a lot of great things going on out there that we can build off of. So I think that's really the key to not getting bogged down in this becoming I go to work, and we delivered 3 axes to the station 2 today, and 2 rolls of hose here, and made sure the lawn was mowed over here, and some of that mundane stuff. I think it's just having the right people in those positions that helps keep us motivated moving forward, looking downrange to see what's next. And with the logistics program, that's really some of the things we're looking at. We're looking at trying to build a regional approach between multiple organizations coming together to build something that a large department would have, where we couldn't support on our own. But if we come together with 2, 3, 4 departments, then when we look at it, we are a large department together. And so there's some of those things like that trying to look at some of the large departments out there. What are they doing? How can we do that, but not as one organization to be more efficient and effective? And so those are some of the things that we try and reach out to. It's been really important in our organization, over the last 15 years or so to be connected across the country and have connections, have relationships built so you can call people outside of this area and say, what are you doing for this? Or how are you doing this? Just last week or 2 weeks ago, I was talking to somebody from Fort Worth Fire Department about taking a group of us from the region to go down and look at their logistics program and how they do that and bring that back because they're doing some really, really good things that as Loveland Fire we couldn't do, but as a region we can do. And so I think having those connections around the country, and our current Chief Sindelback, has more connections than just about anybody in the fire service. And so that's helping us a bunch. But that's always been a priority in the organization is we can't have blinders on, can't be Loveland Fire centric all the time. We have to look at what our partners are doing, what our regional partners are doing, what the state's doing, what we can do across the country. 2 weeks ago, was involved in the International Fire Instructors Workshop that was held in Cheyenne, and it was fire instructors from across the world. And we got the opportunity to host them here in Loveland for one day to tour the training center and one of our stations. And so even connections like that are so important to building those relationships to help move our vision forward for the organization.
And so speaking of vision, and vision's actually the theme that I'm talking about this month in blog posts and other content on social media. So you have that innovative mindset, you're keeping your eyes open to opportunities on the horizon and the way things might be changing and breaking away from that status quo that you have. Once you turn that into an idea, and that idea becomes a plan, and then incorporated within that plan is your vision for the future state. How do you translate that into action, and then how do you keep that action and the momentum going with that, where it just doesn't die on the vine as a good idea? How do you reconcile that with the operational realities on the ground, where sometimes just doing the work in the current state is more important than doing the work for the future state, if that makes sense?
Yeah, I think it makes sense. And to back up, I think that when we want to be, or I say we're innovative, one of the things that I think we've learned over time, and still we always have to work at this, but we have to be careful at everything that's coming at us, right? Because there's always ideas coming at us, so many different ideas coming at us. And so I think we back all the way up to that point is what can we take on? So everything that comes at us, we can't do. We don't have the finances, we don't have the staffing to do those things. So I always say we look at something and evaluate it, and is this right for LFRA? If it is, start working on the process like you talked about. Let's start looking at how can we implement this. Is it a training plan? What does it look like at the end state? And work towards that. Get the right people working on that to get us there. Do we look at what's new coming at us and we say, that's not right for LFRA? That's okay. We got to let it go. Let it pass by. It's all right. Don't be to be an innovative department doesn't mean that you have to grab onto everything that's coming at you. The third way to look at it is something's coming at us. Is this right for LFRA? I don't know. We've looked at it. It might be, uh, and I always say, let PFA do it first. And I only use PFA because they're the next largest department, to the north of us in Fort Collins. And it could be any department. Boulder Fire has put 2 electric fire engines in service. And that's really good for the fire service in our area for them to step out and be the first ones to to do that, because that gives all the rest of us an opportunity to watch and learn and decide if that's right for our organization before taking that step. And so I think there's a lot of things like that, that as those things are coming at us, it may be right for us, but maybe we need to let somebody else do it first. Sit back, watch, evaluate, and then decide if it's right for us, and then develop a plan
Hmm.
and go. So really three things when it's coming at us. Is it right for LFRA? Let's figure it out and let's do it. If it's not right for LFRA, let's let it go. It might be right. Maybe we can let somebody else do it first, sit back, watch, and learn from them. And then to get, more in depth of what you were talking about carrying that forward. I think the key piece to that is the people that we get involved in that along the way. We have to get the right people that can continue that momentum, who really believe in it, and have the ability to draw other people from the organization into that vision, and get them to see it, and to move forward. And I think there's some timing to the change, and a vision for something new out there in innovation. There's timing within the organization. Can the timing, or can the organization handle that change at this time? Or is that something we want to do, but part of our implementation plan is we can't do that right now. We have these other three things we're trying to accomplish, so we got to wait. That's a 2026 or early 2027 initiative we're going to take on. So we always have to look at that timing. And I'll tell you, kind of share a story with you that I've shared
Sure.
several times. So we several years ago made a huge change in our tactics. We did a lot of research on fireground tactics, and we did a lot of study from a couple different organizations, including overseas, coming out of Europe, on firefighting tactics, and we made a huge change. And I remember having discussions with the battalion chiefs, and there was a small segment of the organization that was struggling with this, and we were having a discussion on how do we get them there. So it was a great discussion, and I came back over to my office for a while, and then I went back over to the fire station side, and those battalion chiefs were standing in the apparatus bay, and there was a couple crews there, and they had some boxes, and they opened up one of those boxes and pulled out a European style fire helmet. And if you know anything about the American Fire Service and tradition, most people are not into European style fire helmets that look
Hmm.
like a motorcycle helmet or a fighter pilot helmet. But all the studies point to them being very safe helmets and stuff. So we're going to demo them, and I'm fully on board with demoing these. But I just watched the dynamics when that helmet came out of the box with those crews that were there in the apparatus bay, and there was a couple that were like, oh, I want to try it, but there was others that are like, don't even touch me with that helmet. And I thought about that more, and was driving somewhere with a battalion chief that morning, and I said, I think we messed up. I said, because we just talked about how we need to get this group of members of our organization on board with this tactics change, and we need to spend some time on that. And we want them talking about the tactics change at the dining room table, right? When they're having meals and stuff. And we just totally distracted them by pulling a European fire helmet out of a box, because everybody in this organization 20 minutes later knows that those helmets are here. That word spreads. And what is the discussion at the dining room table going to be tonight, tomorrow, for the next few weeks? Is it going to be about the tactics change, or is it going to be about the European fire helmets? And which is more important to the organization? We totally distracted the organization from what was really important by something we wanted to do, but really, in the big scheme of things, wasn't that important at the time. So I think timing plays a huge part in how we can be effective in obtaining or getting to our vision, being innovative, change, and things in our organization, and leading those things.
I think the other important thing about leading in a way that helps accomplish the vision is that it's not just the large innovative approaches, right? Like if you said that we want to try this new way of doing tactics and fighting fire, and we're going to buy the gear and the equipment to do it, you'll probably get a lot of people that might be skeptical at first, but because it's new and it's shiny, they're going to kind of see it at the forefront and do the thing. But it's also, in terms of vision, just simply getting people rowing in the same direction for the everyday things. Like if Chief Sendelbach came in, or you as the assistant chief in your role had the current state, let's say that's A, and you want to get to the future state of B, how do you lead in a way that gets people always thinking about what B is and how to get there, even if it's small, even if it's little things that add up, right? Like if I silly example, but if I wanted to lose 20 pounds and that was my vision for, let's say December, losing 20 pounds, what do I do each day to make that vision a reality? So I appreciate what you were saying about it being both the bigger innovative things, but how do we keep people on track with Chief Sendelbach's vision as well?
Yeah. I saw something in 2012 or so. Our Chief Morawski at the time, he came in and developed really our first strategic plan. And I saw something interesting that he did. He would come into every meeting and he would set his bag down and he would pull out a bottle of water and he would pull out a strategic plan document and he would sit those on the table in front of us every meeting, whether the meeting pertained to the strategic plan or not. But over time, in watching that, I think he was showing the organization how important that plan was to get us from where we were at to where the vision was. And his vision, and we still have it, is going from good to great and building it to last. And we know that's a book title that's
Sure.
out there, right? That's not something, wow, that's really cool. It's a book title, but it really, his point was to always keep us moving forward. Don't settle, because as soon as you think, yeah, we made it, we're great, we're there, we're going to say, where are they going? Because somebody is passing us by and going someplace different. So great's always moving out there in front of us is really his point. So just keep moving forward. And I think he was trying to show us the importance of vision and taking the organization in a direction without really having a lot of conversation with the members. It was by his action. And when we would bring things to him, say, well, let's look at the strategic plan. How does that fit into the strategic plan? Is it in one of our strategic goals? Is it something we can tie into that? And so he was very good about being intentional with having that document all the time. And I think just through those actions, showing the organization how important that vision is.
Yeah, and compare that to probably, many, many departments out there that go through the work of doing a strategic plan and then it sits on a shelf and never gets pulled, right? Like, so even in your example there, even if chief never even opened that and it just sat on the conference room table as you were doing, let's say, an operational meeting or something, it's connecting the dots to that thing, and I'm sure he's processing when people are presenting things for proposals for his decision, he's thinking about what does this mean in terms of the plan? And so it's a living document there. I think that's awesome. So chief, what's next for you with risk reduction and readiness there at Loveland?
I think we have a few things, in the works with logistics. I talked a little bit about trying to build that program and some regional approaches and stuff. So there's a lot of exciting things I think that's going to happen there that are coming to that program. Health, wellness, and safety. On July 11th, we're opening a wellness clinic at our fire training center for our firefighters, and so that's pretty exciting. We partnered with a company to come in. They're going to do all of our annual physicals in that building, but there's more to come on that. What else can we do out of that building, that facility? And so I think that's next for that, is to get that up and running. And then what's next? Where do we go next with that? We're gonna have a facility dedicated to health and wellness. Our training division, we've been working through a master planning process of the entire training center really to turn it into a campus. And what is that going to look like, for the future? We have to get some flood mitigation work done at the Big Thompson River to make this happen, to open up some property for us. But it's really given us an opportunity to look towards the future and what are the next phases, and to really build a training center and a campus that's a regional center, something that we can draw in firefighters from around the region and really do some fantastic things here. And then the community safety division, I think the piece with that one that we're working through and got to get really dialed in for us is some succession planning and mentoring, and trying to build fire marshal from within that group of people. We have some really highly motivated plan reviewers and inspectors, and very, very talented and very smart, and they have a lot of leadership savvy that they bring. And so how do we build them from that point to fire marshal? And I don't know that we've done a good job of that in the past, and our fire marshal's getting to the end of her career, and so we're really putting a lot of effort into this right now of how we can develop people from within, and so they can at least compete for that position. And it's not been something that's happened in the past here. So I think that's the big piece for the community safety division. A lot of exciting things that, between all four of those areas that we have in front of us, that we're hoping to really be able to see some things come to fruition, and kind of that vision we're headed in all of those.
Yeah, no, it sounds like a lot of great stuff on the horizon there, and stuff that you just said would fulfill not only your vision, but the fire chief's vision as well.
Yeah,
So
and
I was
sorry.
please. No, go ahead.
I have to say, with Chief Sindelback in his vision, he has, I think, vision that's further out there than anybody I've ever been around. And it's really cool for us to try and see that vision he has, because it's down the road a significant way in a lot of cases. And at first, I think when he got here, we were struggling to see that, and he's had to help broaden our vision to be able to see his vision to work towards it. So it's been a really cool process since he's been here, in trying to be able to see his vision and downrange as far as he does.
So in my last question here, Chief, let's talk about the folks that are probably going to be the ones that are the next generation to accomplish Chief's long-term vision. I was going to ask you, what's a leadership mindset or principle that you think should be important to pass on to the next generation, but I want to change it up a little bit because you mentioned your son. I think it would be more personal and more impactful if I worded it this way. What's a conversation that you have with your son now in the fire service that you say, and I don't want to put words in your mouth, but you might say something like, "Hey, you be your own man, you figure out your own path, figure out what's important. But one thing to keep in mind is X." What might that thing be that you, in private conversations with your son and your vast experience in the fire service, that you want him to think about and embrace?
I think there's a couple I'll share with you real quick. The first one is, don't get caught up in what you see on YouTube and social media, and even some of the trainings that come out that are bright, shiny, lots of firefighters in situations with fire around them, and some of that stuff. Be smart, be an intelligent firefighter, which will translate someday to an intelligent company officer, and maybe someday, if he wants a chief officer, be a thinking firefighter. Do the research, look at what's out there, study the data. Don't get caught up in some of the glamorous stuff that is shown out there, some of the stuff that's taught out there that isn't necessarily the best way to do things. So that one. As he moves into leadership roles potentially down the road, you read so many different leadership books, go to so many different classes, and there's leadership theories and principles and all these different, leadership styles and everything that's out there. I think the most important thing is having leadership agility, being able to just pull from all of those different things based on the situation you're faced with, and not say that I'm this type of leader, I'm that type of leader. I have leadership agility is what I want him to say. I can walk into a situation and have experience from the past that I could pull on, somebody else's experience I've learned from, or all of these different books and teachings and lessons and stuff, all of this stuff to draw on. And I have good leadership agility, and I can work to solve the problem because of that.
I
So
love it.
having the leadership agility. And I think the last one is something that him and I have conversations about a lot is, and I think it's important to me because of being multi-generational, is share the history of our department, share the history of our service, tell the stories. It's okay. Tell the stories that have happened in our organization, the things that have happened to us, but share that history, honor those members that were here before and have retired, and they have a lot of that knowledge about where we came from, and where we came from is important. I think that those are lessons that we need to hear about and we need to know, because as you know, whether it's the fire service, the military, things circle back around, and we see some of those things again. And so learn our history, share our history, tell the stories, I think is probably the final thing I would share with him. And him and I have those discussions all the time.
Yeah, I think that's great, and those are great pieces of advice, and hopefully he appreciates it, and if not today, maybe someday he'll look back and he'll appreciate that. I hope the same for my 3 boys, and I hope that the connections happen at some point. It was funny, I was telling them that I have this podcast, and they're like, "What? Why do you have a podcast, Dad? You're lame." And so maybe not quite yet, but at some point, I hope that the connections are made there. Anyways, Chief, thank you so much for sharing your journey and your insights with us today. Your longstanding service and your commitment to the community and professional growth really reflect what amazing leadership is about. For our listeners, if you found this episode valuable, please share it with your team or anyone who might benefit from these leadership takeaways. Don't forget to subscribe to the Convergent Impact Leadership Podcast and leave a review on your favorite platform. For more leadership resources and tools, visit convergentimpact.com. And until next time, as always, lead well, take care of your people, and keep setting the example.